A Boy, a Basket, and a Miracle. Written by Patti Emminger. Illustrated by Agus, Prajogo, and Yohanes, Bastian. Mom, I'm going to see the man who makes miracles today. He is speaking on the beach, said James as he rushed to put on his sandals. James' mother smiled and continued placing tiny loaves of bread in the lunch basket she was preparing for him. She knew the beach was a very long walk and that it would be a very long day for James. She worried that he would become hungry, so she added extra loaves and an extra dried fish, just in case he would need them for the long walk home. James hugged his mother as she kissed him goodbye, and he ran out the door to join his friends who were following a crowd of people toward the beach. They chatted happily as they walked along the dusty road mile after mile until they saw the sea from atop a high hill. In the distance, they could see that a larger crowd had already gathered. The excitement of seeing their destination within view seemed to spur everyone on and at a brisk pace, especially James and his friends. They quickly reached the beach, and the boys found a large sandy rock where they could see and hear the miracle man. James was especially enthralled with each story the man told. He and his friends were unusually quiet as they listened intently. As morning turned to afternoon and then to late afternoon, James noticed murmuring among the crowd. He knew from his own stomach's growls and grumbles that people were very hungry by now. One of the men who followed the miracle man spotted James' basket and asked what he had brought. James shyly counted the 5 barley loaves and 2 dried fishes his mother had lovingly placed in his basket. The man, who introduced himself as Andrew, simply nodded to James and returned to the miracle man's side. James realized the men were trying to figure out how to feed the massive crowd. It would have been easy to wolf down his small basket of food, and he knew that it was more than enough to fill his hungry belly. His friends had eaten their own loaves and fruit much earlier, and even now they eyed James's basket hungrily. James felt compelled to offer his food to the miracle man. Maybe it was the way the man had spoken about love and caring for others. Perhaps it was the gentle beauty in his eyes, or the crying hungry children and the weary bowing heads of the elderly women at the edge of the crowd. James felt an urge to take his lunch to the miracle man. For once, he refused to let his shyness hold him back. He was immediately sure of himself when he heard 2 of the man's followers discussing the dilemma of how to feed so many people. The crowd had grown to almost 5,000 people, according to their count. 8 months' wages wouldn't buy enough bread to feed these people, said the man called Philip. Andrew answered, "Here is a boy with 5 barley loaves and 2 fishes, but how far would they go with so many?" James hurried toward the miracle man, knowing in his heart that surely this man of God could feed everyone with his small basket of food. He decided to give all that he had, knowing that sharing was the right thing to do. He realized that if he had selfishly eaten his food while so many were hungry, he would not have enjoyed his full stomach. He knew he would have felt a sad and a heavy heart instead. The miracle man's eyes met James, and for a long moment, James felt that the man could read every thought James ever had. The man smiled, and James felt a peace and warmth wash over him, like the sun bursting through the clouds after a long cold rain. He almost expected a rainbow to appear over the crowd. He handed his basket to the miracle man, they called Jesus, who held it up, giving thanks to God. Then quietly began passing pieces of bread and fish to his disciples, who had gathered empty baskets from the crowd. A hush came over the crowd as they watched a miracle happening before their very eyes. The basket never emptied. The fish and the bread never ran out. All their empty baskets were immediately filled. James, like the others, ate until he was full, but his heart was far fuller than his stomach. He knew he had done the right thing when he chose to share his lunch with others who had nothing to eat. Everyone was amazed at the miracle they saw. James and his friends watched in awe as the men gathered 12 baskets of leftover barley bread pieces. The miracle man returned James's basket fuller than when his mother had packed it. He thanked James for believing in him enough to share all he had, and with one more look deep into James's eyes, the man turned and disappeared into the crowd. The people watched his men walk to the waiting boat without him. The crowd started heading home in different directions. There was excited discussions everywhere about the miracle of the bread and fish and the disappearance of the miracle man. James and his friends walked home in quiet thought. They had seen it all so closely. James knew his life would never be the same. Although his mother had always taught him to share his blessings, he never understood until this day how much more blessed it was to give than to receive. He decided to be a giver for the rest of his life. He shared his newfound wisdom with his mother, who smiled a knowing smile, kissed him on the forehead, and whispered a goodnight prayer before sending James off to bed at the end of a long and amazing day. Thanks for reading along with Cherish Corner. See you in our next video. Bye.